I have four community leaders here on the front lines. Pastor Corey Brooks heads the New Beginnings Church on Chicago's Southside. Father Michael Pfleger is the senior pastor at Saint that church. And then Brandon Smith is an independent journalist who successfully sued the city and cracked the Laquan McDonald case. And we have Elizabeth Dozier, is the former principal at Fenger High School in the Roseland neighborhood. So, Pastor Brooks, what do you see as the core of this problem?
Well, Steve, we got a myriad of issues in our community: economic issues, educational issues, social, spiritual. But at the end of the day, I really believe one of the biggest problems that we are faced with is that over 70% of our households are ran by single parents, sisters who are doing the very best that they can do to raise these boys, grandmothers who are struggling and pouring in everything they can to raise boys. And there's a serious, serious need in our neighborhood for fathers to be active in their children's lives and for preachers to come out of the church and be mentors and get involved in children's lives. Every Friday night, we have a program for teenagers just to come and be a part of something positive. And when those children come there, they call me Pops because a lot of them don't have a father and a lot of them don't have a mentor. And what I've discovered is there's a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of hopelessness. And at the end of the day, they need individuals to come and just pour into their lives and give them the very best of life that they can get.
Now, Father, you've been 30 years in this city dealing with all of this here. Is this the worst it's ever been?
Yeah, Steve, I think it's the worst I've seen it. I mean, we've talked about the 90s, we talked about 2000, and things have gotten better. The reality is this month of January in Chicago, we have more killings and shootings now in 1 month than we've had since the 90s right now in Chicago. And we got to deal with it. You look at whole communities that are abandoned, not just neglected, abandoned. When they talk about 5% unemployment in America, that tells me where I live, I'm not part of America. Because I got over 20% in my community. I have lack of economic development, lack of jobs, underfunded schools, boarded up houses, most coming back from prison. You create the perfect storm for this. There's whole communities that look like third world countries. It's a war zone where people live every day. And we tell them, you know, stop shooting and don't sell drugs. I did a funeral of a 26-year-old killed by violence last Friday. I said, how many here right now want to make a change and say they want to do something different? They want to get out of this. They want to stop being part of the problem and be part of the solution. I had 150 brothers come up, some with tears in their eyes, saying, help me. Here's the problem. They come up and say, help me. I can get them GED classes. We teach 2 GED classes. I can get them in programs for activities in the ARC. But then what? Then what? When there's no jobs, there's no opportunities, there's no options for them to do. If you want to get out of a gang in the city of Chicago, what do you call 911? Where do you go? And if we don't offer them something, we can't just keep saying, don't shoot, don't sell drugs. They're going to eat. They're going to sleep somewhere. They need help. Right. And we're not willing to help them. My point is, if we're not going to help them, we're promoting gangs. We're forcing them into something because people will survive.
Next is Brandon. We also have some other unique factors here in Chicago working. What do you see?
Here you see the government behaving in a way where it's really just kind of covering its own butt, you know? Whenever people ask information of it, like I did, about how it's providing an unfair shake for some people, they try to stonewall you, you know? And so that gives this sense to people that it's not my government. Father Pfleger said that the conditions are being made. They don't just happen. The conditions that create gun violence, that make people want to have guns and use guns, or rather need to have guns and use guns. They don't just happen, they're created, and they're created by institutions like our economic system and our city and local government. You know, in Chicago, the city and local government has a lot of money that it could spend helping create jobs in neighborhoods with no jobs.
Okay, let me ask you something. Now, let me ask you this, because I've heard people say that. Do you know that for a fact?
Absolutely. No. There's a program in Chicago called tax increment financing. They have a lot of money, and we're not broke as a city.
So, okay, now you said the tax increment financing. She said TIF. Okay, explain TIF to me and how that could benefit this city.
It's tax dollars that are taken up, and the original purpose of this is so that you can fund development, you know, give a jump start to small businesses that can create jobs in areas that need them. Okay. And it's not happening. It's been given to giant companies that don't need that money. And you know, we also ought to start asking the big banks, why don't you provide small loans to small businesses in these communities?
All right, we reached out to the Chicago Police Department and the mayor's office, and we invited their representation here. We sent several requests, and they just went unanswered. So we just want you to know, we gave everybody a chance here to come and to be a part of this problem that's a citywide problem. Okay, Liz, talk about the challenges that a lot of the schools face.
I think it's what everyone on the stage has talked about, right? So it's what Pastor Brooks talked about with communities and families. It's what we talked about with economic development, what's happening with the police system, all kind of rolled into one. And our children have to function in this dynamic, right? And there are just enormous stressors that come on our kids every single day as they just come to, and just a simple act of going from their homes to their schools every single day sometimes can be just a feat. And I don't know truly if people understand it, if they haven't seen it or lived in it. I mean, it would be similar to, for the person in Idaho or Wyoming, if they had to, every single day when they left their home, they had to worry about their own fear and safety going to their job. Mm-hmm. What would that be like? What's the psychological toll over that over, you know, a week, a couple weeks, years? What happens? Then compile that with, you know, underfunded programs in schools, couple that with, you know, health issues. I mean, there's an inordinate amount of stress on our children. And we turn to them and we say, well, pick yourselves up by your bootstraps and just do better. Just do something different. And it's not that simple. Sometimes our children don't have the boots. And it's incumbent upon us as the adults, not just here in this room, right, but the adults across this country to stand up. And whether or not we think this is a social, we can say, okay, it's a social issue. I don't necessarily believe in X, Y, Z. Think of it as an economic issue. Ultimately, if we don't take care of our children now, if we don't do right by them now, they're ultimately going to end up in the criminal justice system, right? And we'll wind up paying for it then. So either do it now and do the right thing, or you pay for it later.
Hey, folks, welcome. Thanks for checking out my YouTube channel. Don't forget to click here to subscribe to my channel. That way, you won't miss a single hot new video, some really good stuff. And then I want you to click here to see more clips from the show right now.